Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. It's your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly. It's in the description below, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Today, we're discussing what is justly described as vintage FP Journe. This is the FP Journe Octa Reserve de Marche, a timepiece that represents the first family of automatic winding FP Journe watches, and in its earliest iterations with brass caliber and 38mm platinum case. The case in profile is 10.4 millimeters thick, and as you can see from lug to lug, 44.7 millimeters with a 20mm spacing between the lugs. Throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. You can see the 38mm case, which was discontinued after 2015, is a gorgeous one. Beautifully proportioned, universally wearable, fit for a wrist as small as 13 centimeters in circumference. There's no problem wearing this or fitting it underneath the cuff. Taking a quick look at the hardware and the software, you can see this is a Jean Rousseau Parisian-made factory strap. It's calfskin on both sides, buttery smooth. It is thick, though, with a folded edge. You're getting a lot of leather here. You have curved spring bars, so they don't impede their travel against the case flank, and then you have pull-tab spring bars, as you'll find on Journe factory straps, so you can remove the strap with a simple tug of your fingernail. Simple, no nonsense. You can see there is a platinum pin buckle, and we have some loving marks of age, as we all love a good patina, and you can see that this watch has some in its own right. The timepiece is in great condition, though. As you can see, no refinishing ever or polishing. The lines remain sharply defined. We have that lovely mid-case bounded by the case back lip and the bezel lip. Integrated Calatrava-style lugs, albeit with a lot more downturn at the end than you'll find in a Calatrava. Fully polished with a domed bezel and the distinctive knurled and double dimple FP Journe crown. The dial is lovely and lush with a rose tinge and a matte finish, and you can see it has that almost shimmering three-dimensional varnished look that's common to early FP Journe watches. This case is stamped 01, and while the case year stamp doesn't necessarily correspond with the year of assembly, the two are usually fairly close together, so you get a sense of when this watch was made, or at least a rule of thumb. The dial is in outstanding condition. Now, many of these early Journe dials tend to decompose a little bit or tarnish. This example shows neither. You can see that there's that lovely set of Journe biomorphic tapered hands that have become signatures of the brand. Another signature, dial side bolts. So you can actually see the physical assembly bolts that are holding the dial to the base plate. You can also see that they're black polished, and so is the steel frame for the time. That was another Journe signature. And that black polished steel frame essentially enshrouds a silvered brass plate that represents the hours, minutes, and seconds. There's a flush double date with a quickset, and the watch, as you can see, features a power reserve indicator that maxes out at 120 hours, though in reality, the watch will run for a little bit longer than that at the extreme. The timepiece, of course, with an Eleanor-made case, which means you can see the maker's mark of Eleanor, as well as the hallmarking from both Switzerland and France. As from 1983 to about mid-2008, FP Journe's cases were made outside of Paris by a company called Eleanor, which had supplied him back in his early pocket watch days through the Geneva years, and he bought the company eventually and moved it to Geneva, so Eleanor still exists, including some of the same people who built this case, but they are now in Geneva as Boîtier de Genève, FP Journe's in-house case factory. As a result, these early Eleanor cases with the double hallmarking are considered to be another element of collectability characteristic of these early Journe watches. You can also see we're looking at a very early version of the caliber 1300 Octa automatic. This is the era of bidirectional winding rather than unidirectional winding. You can also see that it's a brass movement, which went away in mid-2004. That's something that is considered to be highly collectible, despite the fact that the subsequent movements were made of gold. Gold has a higher commodity value, but not a higher collectability value, because there are many more of them, whereas the brass calibers are relatively scarce and no more are being made. Now, the movement's adjusted in 5 positions like a chronometer, and it has a free sprung balance for better precision of adjustment as well as better shock tolerance. It beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour, and as you can see, it's a handsomely made movement, though as with most FP Journe and, for example, Audemars Piguet and Jaeger-LeCoultre calibers, it's a combination of manual finishing and mechanized finishing, with the result overall being quite pleasing. You can also see that the winding mass itself is 22 karat gold. This has been turned on a rose lathe. This is real guilloche, and a grand orge or barley corn cut. That's what this pattern is. All of that's 30 meters water resistant, but you're not going to test this watch against water. You've got an Elegant 48 or maybe even a Submariner for that. This one is a collectible and already considered to be vintage, for there were no FP Journe branded watches prior to 1999. This is from the beginning of time for Montre Journe. Reach out to tmosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.